Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Very Cold Lasagna Podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Lasagna, bringing you all the filthy casual takes on the world of sports for you sports and non-sports fans out there like you and me. This is episode number 345, and in this episode, we're here to talk about WrestleMania 42 because it was this past weekend down in the dirty south of New Orleans, Louisiana at the Caesars Superdome. Oh, wait, it wasn't down there? Editor, what are you doing? What are you doing providing me these notes? And what you're telling me that this was in Las Vegas again this year? I guess so. Well, yeah, that's what the editor is telling me. Yeah, WrestleMania 42 this past weekend took place once again in Las Vegas, Nevada, at the home of the Las Vegas Raiders. No, apparently not in the home of the New Orleans Saints. So they went for round 2 in Las Vegas this year, and it happened this past weekend. And oh, so boy, there was a lot to talk about here on this show. And I'm not going to sugarcoat this cold open because plenty to talk about from this 2-night affair for good and bad reasons. So let's get right into it. So going into a little bit of background info on this show, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, he first announced on February 21st, 2025 last year on that episode of SmackDown that this WrestleMania would take place in New Orleans, Louisiana at the Caesars Superdome, the home of the New Orleans Saints, which always had WrestleMania 30 and 34, and it would take place a week prior to this WrestleMania on April 1st and April 12th of this year. But it later turned out that from the rumor mill in a couple months later last year, that this WrestleMania was no longer going to be in NOLA, and it would instead host a future WrestleMania to be determined in the 2026 Money in the Bank pay-per-view. There was outrage. People were pissed that they had a WrestleMania stripped away from them, and it was a lot of fan outcry. But TKO, WWE didn't give a shit, as those reports were officially confirmed during last year's Money in the Bank pay-per-view that it was going to be announced that WrestleMania would indeed return to Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas at this point in time, this past weekend on April 18th and 19th of this year. So the return to Las Vegas marked the first time since WrestleMania 4 and 5, which was held in, I believe, New Jersey, in that Trump Plaza, not that Trump Auditorium, whatever it was. But anyway, but it was the first time that since those WrestleManias that the show was held at the same venue in 2 straight years. And like I said, the reaction to that was very divided on the wrong side amongst wrestling fans. And the reaction towards this build up to this second straight WrestleMania in Vegas was once again very divided. Very high ticket prices, rapidly declining show quality, not like well before this road to WrestleMania even began. And then like right before this show even took place, just a month or 2 out, you had TKO and its bosses, Ari Emanuel, Mark Shapiro, like interjecting into whatever creative that Triple H had. It just got worse. They interfered in the storylines. But those were the main 3 factors that I could pull from all this. And yeah, the ticket sales were not doing all that great. I mean, obviously, the creative wasn't all that great. And there was a lot of desperation. You got a bunch of discount sales on, what was it, Black Friday. And then in the last 3 months before this WrestleMania, there are a lot of them. There are a lot of them as the tickets continued to go down and down as the months went by. So as we were heading into this WrestleMania, many people were once again calling it, like prior to this, it was going to be one of the worst Manias of all time. This was one of the worst builds towards a Mania, and I couldn't blame them. I couldn't blame them on this one. Like, I literally, every time I saw a clip of all the matches in their build-up on the road to this Mania, it wasn't great. There was only like 1 or 2 select matches that had a really decent to solid build. And I'll get into that in this review. So one last thing about this Mania prior to this event, John Cena, who competed last year, won his never seen 17th world title. He retired in December very recently. He was going to be at this year's WrestleMania, but as the host. And yeah, that's pretty much that. John Cena, let's be honest, he really didn't do all that much. I was surprised. He wasn't all that involved. He just did an opening monologue and he announced the attendance numbers, but that was pretty much it. We'll talk more about what John Cena did throughout each night as we do our review. So let's get into the show itself. There, like I said, plenty to talk about for all the matches, which totaled around 13. And that being said, let's get started with night one to kick things off. With the first hour of each night being on, well, the first one on ESPN2 and the second night on ESPN. So, yeah, you got to take care of that ESPN money, pal. So, on ESPN2, we had two matches. The first one, kicking off the overall WrestleMania card, was the Usos in LA Knight. Yeah, taking on Logan Paul, Austin Theory, and streamer IShowSpeed. 80% man, as I like to call him. So, the story of this match was pretty much LA Knight and the Usos beefing with the Vision, Seth Rollins' group for much of 2025. That was until, well, Seth Rollins got ousted at the end of the year, with Logan Paul and Austin Theory joining Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker in that group. And yeah, LA Knight got written off too. The Usos won the World Tag Team titles. Earlier in the year, LA Knight returned at the Royal Rumble and eliminated both Bronson Reed and Austin Theory. And then just a week or two after, Bronson Reed got hurt, Braun Breaker got hurt, and that significantly changed how this story was going to go. So Logan Paul and Austin Theory would eventually take the tag team titles off the Usos after Logan Paul took advantage of some brass knuckles left by IShowSpeed, who managed to get into this storyline somehow. And he accidentally knocked out LA Knight, who was on commentary. So in response, you had this really nice segment outside of WWE TV where LA Knight raided IShowSpeed's live stream the next day from his house, and he attacked him and like literally threw him at his monitors. So LA Knight lost his match to Austin Theory the next week, and in response, him and the Usos challenged the Speed, Logan Paul, and Austin Theory to this tag match, and Adam Pearce made it official. So the match itself was a fine opener, which didn't have a lot of anything to offer in ring wise, but I thought it was fine because it served its purpose story wise, as this was a kind of a short match. And when I say short match, oh, believe me, there's a lot of it on this show. That was the theme of this WrestleMania, and I'll get into why that is. IShowSpeed, he only did 2 moves in this match, and it's kind of crazy. He's pretty athletic, and he's only 21 years old, and it's kind of insane. Like, if he wants to do some more WWE work, I wouldn't be surprised. There was this video of him taking bumps from Randy Orton, but not to sidetrack even more. He did like a scoop slam on LA Knight to start the match, and then he did a Hurricanrana on Jimmy Uso. But the thing I liked about IShowSpeed, even though it's not gonna make me watch his streams, I dug his cockiness and what he was doing to like run away from the baby faces at every turn, which it became key to the end of the match. The finish saw IShowSpeed escape LA Knight's BFT, but he pushed LA Knight into Logan Paul off the ring apron, which pissed off Austin Theory and left Speed confused. And they were trying to go for this double T move, which Theory bullied Speed into. But LA Knight pushed Austin Theory into Speed, and that led to LA Knight getting the win for his team with the BFT onto Austin Theory. So afterwards, Logan Paul got pissed at IShowSpeed and knocked him out with the titanium punch. And he tried to splash IShowSpeed through the table, the announce table, but the Usos and LA Knight saved him and hit the 1D on Logan Paul. And they encouraged IShowSpeed to hit his IShow splash onto Logan Paul through the announce table. It was a nice splash, by the way. And then they had a yeet-a-thon to end this opener. So I thought it was, again, a decent one. It had the energy that you needed to kick off this overall WrestleMania show. So it served its purpose and what it needed to do. So next up, we had an unsanctioned match between Jacob Fatu and Drew McIntyre to finish up the hour on ESPN. Dos, by the way. But yeah, the backstory of this match, it had these two beefing with each other since October of last year, where a number one contenders match for the WWE title was supposed to take place, but that didn't happen as Jacob was found knocked out backstage by an unknown assailant. 3 months later, when Drew and Cody were facing each other in the final portion of a 3 Stages of Hell match on SmackDown, Jacob attacked them both, but he inadvertently helped Drew McIntyre win the WWE Championship. In their progressing weeks until Elimination Chamber, Jacob would claim Drew as the attacker, which grew even larger because Drew would cost Jacob Fatu chamber qualifying matches, and in response, Jacob Fatu would cost Drew the WWE title, which was won by Cody Rhodes. So that increased the feud, and they were supposed to have a match 2 weeks later on SmackDown, but they instead brawled throughout the whole episode to the point where they fell off like a little mini building outside the arena. So this led to Nick Aldis making this unsanctioned match at WrestleMania, where, again, with these kind of unsanctioned matches, WWE was not held responsible for. So before the match started, it's kind of a funny thing that happened. They do the usual celeb crowd shots that TK loves. It featured George Kittle from my 49ers, Tyrese Halliburton from the Pacers, and probably one of my favorite celebrity shots in the modern times, Stephen A. Smith from good old ESPN First Take. And he was embracing. He was loving the booze. Good old Stephen A. Smith. Probably my favorite celeb camo in WWE, so by far. But anyway, as for the match, as with last year's street fight that Drew was in with Damian Priest, very tame. Very tame. And sure, they were on ESPN too. They were on cable television. Like, honestly, you can't really excuse that. Drew and Jacob, sure, they were abusing each other with chairs and all that, including a Falcon Arrow that Drew gave to Jacob through a stack of chairs that broke one of them. But it's kind of like they were doing things that we've seen before. Jacob got pushed through a table. We've seen that. But, you know, there were a couple positives at least. Drew continuing to hate on the referee, Dan Agler. And yeah, his beef towards him. And a funny moment happened where he was demanding his Dan's leather belt. It was like he was, you know, assaulting him. I found that to be very, that thing. And I'm not gonna get into. I don't know. I found that very funny for some reason. But anyway, and then probably one of the big moments of the match was Jacob getting hit with the Claymore while he had the toolbox in his hand. Bonus points to commentary and to Drew too, because Drew did not want to touch that toolbox all match after what happened with this Hell in a Cell match with CM Punk in 2024. So I like the little callback there. The finish of the match saw Jacob super kick Drew onto a standing table, and then he ran to the turnbuckle to hit his prettiest Samoan moonsault ever on him to win this rather tame unsanctioned match. But hey, what can you do when the WWE TKO can't exactly say fuck the sponsors, right? But yeah, this is rather relatively tame, and not much happened as WWE finished up the first hour on ESPN2, heading into ESPN Unlimited. So then we get into the third matchup on this show on night one, as the women's tag team titles were on the line in a fatal four-way match. And your participants were the champions, Nia Jax and Lash Legend of the Irresistible Forces, defending their titles against Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss, Bayley and Lyra Valkyria, and the Bella Twins. Right? Right. So the backstory of this match, it actually goes back to a little bit in late 2025. Charlotte and Alexa, who were the tag team champions at the time, they had been at odds with Nia Jax, who was soon joined by then NXT call-up Lash Legend. And she's a very solid call-up, by the way. And the two cost Charlexa the tag team titles in November of that year. 3 months later, Lash and Nia themselves won the titles from Rhea Ripley and Io Sky just before the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. Meanwhile, during that time, Brie Bella returned to the WWE for the first time since 2022 and the Royal Rumble match, and reunited with their sister Nikki to go after these tag titles. Charlotte and Alexa faced Lash and Nia a month prior to this pay-per-view. But then you'd have to start having these multiple situations, not just from them, but from the other teams, where they would cost each other's like tag team title matches, like starting with Charlotte and Alexa. Like they had an altercation with Nia and the Bellas, which led to Brie attacking Nia, costing the challengers the title win by disqualification. And then three teams all got into it the following week during the title match between Nia and Lash and the Bellas that ended in no contest. And then you get the running theme. 2 weeks later, Bayley and Lyra had their own title match with the champs, but Charlotte and Alexa, they got involved. They caused the DQ. So after that, the three teams that lost by DQ or no contest, they attacked Nia and Lash, which led to this fatal four-way being made. But there was some interesting news regarding the Bellas that we're going to get into in just a bit. And, as I was watching these entrances for two of these teams, it's kind of a little of a interesting, notable thing as I was watching them. Specifically Charlotte, as she was walking with Alexa. What a year of difference it makes for her. Like she was walking into Allegiant Stadium, facing Tiffany Stratton for the women's title. She was getting heavily booed in that match. But this year, as she is undergoing a rebuilding phase with Alexa, probably getting the biggest favorable reactions of her career. Yeah, she got big cheers from the Vegas crowd. And now look at Tiffany. She wasn't on the show at all, unfortunately. And then Bayley and Lyra, they got to team up how they were supposed to last year against Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez for the women's tag titles, only for Bayley to be ousted from the show in favor of the Becky Lynch return. So anyway, the Bellas came out last, but Nikki pretty much confirmed the rumors of her ankle injury that she had 2 or 3 weeks prior to this match taking place. And she later revealed on the post show that she actually had surgery for the injury, which was very unfortunate and kind of makes sense given that, Brie was the only one being able to promote their participation in this, even if it was in doubt. But to replace her, they were still going to be in the match, but Nikki had a replacement. And she called in an old friend, and that old friend was the former 3-time Divas champion, last seen in the WWE in 2019, 20. But she was also last seen wrestling in All Elite Wrestling in 2024 by the name of the Anti-Diva. You gotta scream for her, Paige. Man, my teenhood screamed. And I was happy that Paige was back, and I was hoping to get the WWE version of Paige and not the AEW version of her, because that AEW run was not great for her. So looking at the match itself, there were some sloppy moments in this one, like Charlotte tripping over Bayley when she hit the big boot on her, and Lyra nearly getting concussed from the start, like jumping from that mid rope and then landing on her head. But this was a decent showcase that significantly changed once Paige entered the match. I kind of like the build up in anticipation that all four teams were doing as the crowd was waiting for her to enter the match. And they did their job in making them wait by doing what they could to prevent Brie Bella from making that hot tag to her. But once she did, though, the page was turned, and she looked much better than how she did in AEW, with her familiar babyface comeback when she first debuted in 2014, hitting those apron knees. She nearly botched a crossbody, though, on Lyra, but she got saved for a Nightwing attempt, and Paige turned it into the Page Turner but that got broken up. So you get to the photo finish, which came down to Paige, Charlotte, and Alexa Bliss. As Paige and Charlotte took out Lash Legend together, and then they ran it back from their 2015 WWE days when they were PCB with Becky Lynch. Charlotte hit the natural selection on Paige, and then she readied up Alexa for the Twisted Bliss. But Nikki pulled out Charlotte out of the ring and hit her with her leg crutch, which I guess is legal in these kind of situations. But anyway, that allowed Paige to get her knees up in time for Alexa's Twisted Bliss. And Paige then hit the Rampage DDT on Alexa Bliss to win this match and the women's tag team titles with Brie Bella in her return match. So really decent matchup here. But the return of Paige and how she does in the ring, how she did in the ring in this one was well done here. And I liked it a lot. I really liked it a lot. I don't think she had wrestled since, what was it, All In 2024, up to that point. But I'm not sure if she had been training. But, you know, given the circumstances of how she did in this one, probably had. She probably had. Paige basically did what Becky Lynch did the year prior in this situation, minus the mystery attacker angle that Bayley had last year. Now, going forward, how she does in her matches post WrestleMania, it's going to dictate the fans' responses towards her, both in person in the arenas and on the IWC, because it's got to be much better, obviously, than her AEW run was. But this was a good start. The reaction was great. The performance was really good. And I think, you know, having a tag run is a nice start to it. So then we get into our next matchup, which is the Women's Intercontinental Champion, AJ Lee, taking on Becky Lynch. A feud that honestly has really dragged out. It's overstayed its welcome. It all started back in September of the last year. AJ Lee made her return to WWE, last seen since 2015. She aided her husband, CM Punk, who was feuding with Becky and Seth Rollins, Seth was a heel at the time. But anyway, AJ and CM Punk beat the two at the WrestlePalooza pay-per-view, where AJ forced Becky to tap out with the Black Widow submission. 2 months later, when they were on the opposing teams on the Women's War Games at Survivor Series, AJ made Becky tap out again. And then 2 weeks prior, she cost Becky the women's IC title against Maxine Dupree. So a month later, after Becky won back the IC title from Dupree on the Raw Netflix anniversary show in January, she lost it to AJ at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, where AJ got the three-peat on Becky. So all roads led to this matchup here because Becky was pissed. She was furious over her failures to get rid of AJ Lee and beat her straight up. And Becky attacked AJ 3 weeks before 3 weeks later. And yeah, AJ would grant this rematch for the women's IC title. So there was no pre-match promo that played as they basically went straight into the entrances. And again, this was a common theme that happened throughout this entire WrestleMania. Short matches, not just for the women, but for the men too, in most cases. And yeah, no rematch promos. It was just basically a lot of advertisements and all that. Some of it, yes, does have to do with how much Triple Fraud dragged yet another feud too long. But it also goes to show you how weak its storytelling was throughout this WrestleMania season. So the match itself, we got the band that plays Becky's current theme song, which was the Wonder Years. They did a live performance, but you can clearly and obviously tell that the lead singer was lip syncing it. So yeah, not a great special entrance for Becky. But AJ's special entrance for her first Mania match in 11 years, and it had to follow up her friend Paige's return. It was a nice little entrance. You had a bunch of kids skipping down the ring with her, holding replica women's IC titles. I thought it was a nice little entrance. But the match itself was just not doing it for me at all. Obviously, it was clearly rushed. It just felt like they were just trying to get out of Dodge. Becky was dominating most of this match, but I feel like, the rivalry between the two, which again, it was overstated its welcome. It felt like the big focal point of this match was Becky's beef with the referee, Jessica Carr. And, for a title match like this, one would think that, the two competitors would be focusing on each other, but instead it was Becky's beef with a referee she claimed was biased against her. But anyway, AJ, she was doing all right for herself. This was like her third or fourth match? Her fifth match after a decade away from the WWE. But it's probably apparent that she's going to take more time off after this, which was even more apparent in the post show. So the finish saw Becky finally get out of the Black Widow by grabbing AJ's hair and then using Jessica Carr as a shield to have AJ slam into her before hitting AJ into an exposed turnbuckle and using the rock bottom to win back the IC title for a third time. So yeah, not a great matchup. Everything about it just felt rushed. They just wanted to get out of there, get Becky the title back, and finally claim that she beat AJ for once in her life. But you just have to wonder what's exactly next for Becky with that title, because even with the NXT call-ups that hopefully will happen, there's just not much depth to that Raw Women's division in the mid card. And what else can Becky do with that title? Let's be honest here. So then we got a matchup that was made just 3 weeks ago, and that was Seth Rollins taking on the Ring General, Gunther. 3 weeks prior, like I said, Gunther stopped Seth Rollins from attacking Paul Heyman, who was continuing his beef with his former group, The Vision. Seth Rollins was stopped by Gunther from attacking Paul Heyman again while pointing at the Mania sign, choking him out. And this match was quickly made for WrestleMania. But the reason for why exactly Gunther attacked Seth Rollins kept going unexplained, other than the fact that Gunther wanted to prove to Seth that he was a better wrestler. So it was just one of those situations was I'm better than you. It was just one of those things. So yeah, and also the fact that Gunther wanted a favor back from Heyman, possibly indicating a certain matchup at SummerSlam down the line. So anyway, these two clearly were supposed to do much different things for this show. Seth was supposed to defend the title, the World Heavyweight title, against either CM Punk or Braun Breaker, or let alone have a singles match with Braun Breaker, but he got hurt. Seth did manage to come back in time, but before that, both Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed also got hurt, and that put this story on hold. Meanwhile, for Gunther, he was supposed to face Rey Mysterio, whether it'd be just a straight up singles match or the unfortunate retirement match. But Rey wasn't cleared yet with broken ribs until a week later after this match was made official. Rey dodged that match for this the ladder match. So yeah, that ended up being the match that we ended up getting here. But it ended up being for the better, because we got a really good, very physical wrestling match between the two. So yeah, they both ended up benefiting from it. Gunther was outpowering Seth with his usual hard chops, clotheslines, and power moves. But Seth had some really nice counters as well, like a bridge pin reversal into the pedigree, into the curb stomp. So there were a bunch of near falls between the two. But I like the fact that the match really picked up in the second frame, as both were simply beating the hell out of each other at wit's end. And Seth even locked Gunther in his own sleeper hold. One would even thought that history would have repeated itself from last year in Vegas, where Gunther lost to his own move. Yeah, you remember how he lost to Jey Uso? It quit that quickly with with Gunther's own move. But then we get to the closing minutes of the match. It was on the outside. Seth hit a suicide dive onto Gunther twice, but Gunther caught him on the third try and powerbombed Seth on the apron and onto the announce table. But Seth countered a third powerbomb on top of the announce table into a pedigree and hit a curb stomp on Gunther from the other table to the other announce table that Gunther was on. So one would have thought that Seth would have dragged him back into the ring. But no, Seth took a few seconds too many to gloat, because out came running a wild dog, to spear the lights out of him, and the barking was on. Ooh. Because Braun Breaker was back to knock the lights out of Seth. He threw Seth in the ring for Gunther to pick the bones and make Seth tap out for Gunther to win this very good, very physical matchup that also advanced and picked back up the story that we never got here at WrestleMania between Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker. This was honestly the ending that I expected going into this match. If had Braun Breaker was healthy, it was unfortunate that we didn't get the Seth Braun Breaker matchup itself here, but we still got the ending that we got here. It did make sense. It did make Seth look stupid though by not bringing Gunther in as soon as he hit the stomp. But hey, at least we finally kickstarting the feud that we should have gotten, but injuries happened. But either way, we are now getting the phase of Seth versus Braun Breaker, probably for at least the rest the start of the post-Mania period up to however long. Hopefully it doesn't drag too long. And then how could we finish it off with Braun Breaker doing a 75-yard dash to Seth Rollins to hit another spear, probably faster than Josh Jacobs, by the way. But yeah, that's how we ended things for this matchup. Really good stuff here. Good advancement for Seth versus Braun. But I wonder what's next for Gunther, though. Probably going to need some more side quests to buy more time for a beastly battle in Minneapolis in 4 months' time, if that's even still happening. Otherwise, this was probably the best matchup of this WrestleMania by far. What had been an otherwise very weak night. It was this first night of WrestleMania had not been great by any means. And the next matchup on my watch list, which was very high, it was going to have a big, tough ask to follow this up. But before we get to that, though, we had the Hall of Fame class showcase for this year. And the members for this year's class were Bad News Brown, Psycho Sid Vicious, who were both of whom were the legacy members for this past year, Demolitions, Axe and Smash, and former Chicago Bulls player Dennis Rodman, who was more known for his involvement in WCW, but still, hey, he's in the Hall of Fame. And then your headliners, AJ Styles and Stephanie McMahon. So there you go. Now we get into the matchup that I was looking forward to the most on this WrestleMania weekend. Well, one of two, at least. And that was the Women's World Championship match. Stephanie Vaquer defending her title against the 2026 Women's Royal Rumble winner, Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan, after having been runner-up in both the Rumble and the Elimination Chamber in the last 2 of 3 years, she finally won the big one. Won the 2026 Rumble match. In the weeks following, she continued to be a tease to both the champions, Stephanie Vaquer and Jade Cargill, on making her decision. But it was on that February 16th episode of Raw that Stephanie Vaquer, after being insulted heavily by Liv a week prior, she crashed in Liv's interview, putting down her career upbringings by claiming them as entitled due to being signed to WWE immediately in 2014 and currently hiding behind the rest of the Judgment Day, while her journey, Stephanie's journey, that was being more enduring and tactical because of her upbringing in Chile and going through the worldwide indie scene. Before leaving, Steph threatened that such entitlement would leave Liv Morgan on the losing end if she chooses her, and let Liv live in a lot of tears, being comforted by her daddy Dom. The next week, just when Liv was about to pick Jade, she instead blindsided Steph with a mic shot and hit the Oblivion on her, signaling her choice for WrestleMania. So the rest of this build, even with the little screen and actual in-ring promo time that they got, it continues to degrade each other in their career paths, and they got into some very physical altercations. So it started off a little rough on the build, but then when we got to those very physical altercations, even with the little screen time that they got, this slowly but surely became a very nice Mania build. And I was really looking forward to this, especially given that, this was Liv's very first major WrestleMania match. She's always been in tag matches, and not counting the pre-show match that she had in 2020, she have never won at WrestleMania before. She's went 0-7 and 0-6 or whatever at WrestleMania. Never won a match at WrestleMania before. So this was, and honestly, this was a big litmus test for her. Like going up against one of the best wrestlers in the game in Stephanie Vaquer, who was also going to be facing a big test. This is her WrestleMania debut. So both were in a major spotlight here. So going into the match, Liv Morgan did a live performance of her new music video and theme song, which was called Trouble, Trouble. That's me. Whatever that song is called. Like, God damn it. That song, it's like, summertime, love it in the summertime from Regular Show. It's literally that song in that episode. That's what this song is. It's that one catchy, annoying song that you can never get out of your head. The performance itself, though, it was pretty awkward, but she got a pretty nice pop from the Vegas crowd, which surprisingly was still invested in this match and Liv and Steph after going through Steph versus Gunther. Meanwhile, Stephanie Vaquer came out to a rain of rose petals, and again, she also got a really nice pop. But this match though, let me talk about the good first, okay? I'm very happy for Liv Morgan. She capped off her Royal Rumble win and this road to WrestleMania that had her media tour, her music video, WWE following around, creating all these vlogs, and with winning the Women's World Championship, and also coming back from another injury, in this shoulder injury that she had back in June, almost a year ago. It was very serious. So she absolutely earned this win after coming back stronger than ever. And it's a statement win for one of WWE's biggest homegrown talents. And yeah, her first big win at WrestleMania. Meanwhile, you look at Stephanie, very good wrestler, but triple fraud. She ruined her reign got ruined by Triple H from the start. And a lot of it was out of her control. And she was rushed into this that championship reign because of things out of control. The Liv injury, Rhea Ripley being thrusted everyone's throats. Io Sky also being thrusted into everyone's throat. Naomi getting pregnant. So what do? You gotta put it on Stephanie. And what did you do? Well, ran out of challengers. You have her exclusively defend it against Nikki Bella and Raquel. Yeah. It hurt her reign, but damn, like they could have sent Stephanie some one-off matches or trips down to AAA to defend the title. There was some competition there. So going forward, maybe Stephanie could get a retool to better define her character, work on her English. I mean, which is she's kind of solid at. It's improving, but perhaps after a rematch, she can get a retool, which she couldn't get because she was fast-tracked to the title way too quickly. Now that's out of the way. Let's get to what this match, the actual match. I did not like this at all. This was very, very, very disappointing. I get it. They did not have a lot of time in this match. The actual match time was 6 minutes. 6 minutes. You can't do a whole lot in 6 minutes. And the two actually had solid in-ring chemistry with one another, with how they were selling for each other's moves. They had some nice reversals, but the match never got out of the first gear because, again, not only with the time that they had, but it was my biggest gripe with this was that they did the opposite of what their feud had been. And that was a straight up wrestling match. Like, you can't have a very physical, hard hitting feud with them brawling with each other just to have a straight up wrestling match. that's the mistake. As I've mentioned multiple times, that's the mistake that Vince McMahon made by making Triple H and Randy Orton at WrestleMania 25 have it be a straight up singles match after this highly personal feud leading up to that match. Like, you can't have that kind of thing with this match. You couldn't have. And Triple H still managed to do that. While the crowd was actually somewhat alive for this, again, as I mentioned, they didn't have much to sink into other than a few key moments and then the victory for Liv. And that happened to be the Judgment Day interference, which was also a dissatisfaction of mine. After Steph used Liv's Oblivion against her for a near fall, Rox and Raquel came out to stop Stephanie from finishing off Liv with the spinal tap. And then Liv hit the Oblivion on Stephanie for a near fall. But then she accidentally dove onto Raquel. Stephanie dodged Liv, who was trying to hit another Oblivion. But Liv accidentally dove onto Raquel, who pushed Liv out of the way as Steph dove onto both her and Roxanne Perez. And this allowed Liv to drive Stephanie into the steel steps, back into the ring, hit a mid-rope code breaker, and into one last Oblivion to win her first singles Mania match, her true one, by the way, and the women's world title back. So, yeah, like I said, this was a very disappointing match. Like, this did not have the good follow through on their build. Again, and similar to Triple H versus Randy Orton and WrestleMania 25, the limited match time did not help either. And I did not like the interference. Like, the interference really bothered me. I get it. Liv's a heel. But it just proves Stephanie's point that she made in the storyline that Liv cannot win on her own. And this match should have been the time to do it if the implosion between her, Raquel, and Roxanne wanted to really advance. Like, the writing was all right there. Have Liv prove to not just Stephanie, but her teammates that she could do this on her own. There'll probably be a rematch between the two at Backlash or something. I mean, the sooner the better, right? But let's hope that it's better. It gets a stipulation that keeps the Judgment Day away, and it gets more time. I mean, I'm not one of those match marks that wants like a 30+ minute banger every single match, but more time doesn't hurt, you know. After that, once that rematch is done, Liv retains the title. Let Stephanie move on. Like I said, get a retool going. Have her, do something in the mid card to while she's doing that retool. And then for Liv, get going with getting her and Dom breaking away from Raquel and Roxanne, as well as JD. And then have some one-off defenses for Liv Morgan. But overall, I mean, happy that she won back the women's world title. Get her first Mania win. But it just feels tainted, in my honest opinion. Like, I don't feel anything with how the way that it was all booked. So then we get into John Cena. He's in the ring to announce the attendance for night one, which was 50,816. Don't know how legit that is, if that's an inflated number or not, but I don't know. Maybe it's real. And it got fireworks for some reason, yet no reaction. And we also had wide angles of tarps for some reason. But before Cena left, though, we had a surprise return of Bianca Belair. She suddenly came out, but she wasn't moving like her usual bouncy self, whipping her hair back and forth, because she was wearing this evangelic dress. And it was revealed that she was going to be a mom. She was the Preggers. Yeah, her and Montez Ford are going to have a kid. Congratulations to them. So then you have our main event of night one, and that was the WWE Championship match between Cody Rhodes going up against Randy Orton. And guess who was there behind him? Well, you're probably wondering why he's there. Pat McAfee. Oh boy, this matchup. Anyway, teases of a Cody Randy Orton title match began as far back as Clash at the Castle 2024. Yeah, that was like a real long time ago. And that went on for nearly 2 years in Cody's last 2 of 3 WWE title reigns. And it finally picked up when Orton won the Elimination Chamber match by pinning Cody, who then went on to beat Drew McIntyre, who ironically lost to Randy in that chamber match. But he still managed to get another WWE Championship match anyway. He beat Drew McIntyre to win the WWE title back to lock in this matchup. During the contract signing, which was initially a love fest between the two about their friendship and their legacy stable with Ted DiBiase, who, by the way, was in attendance for this WrestleMania. But yeah, Orton brutally attacked Cody, initially pinning the betrayal on his Voices theme song. The story took this very hard left turn with the mystery person called like Randy Orton. And that mystery person ended up being, to the very loud displeasure of the internet wrestling community and many live fans, Pat McAfee. Yep. Pat McAfee was the mystery person because he believed Randy Orton was going to be the guy to save the wrestling business from the shell of its former self. Yeah, Pat McAfee turned heel to be the guy that was in Orton's head. So the whole story was just basically became a self-aware joke of everyone in WWE being at odds with R. Emanuel and TKO, and a self-aware joke that everyone hates TKO. That's basically the best way to explain this bullshit. So, the match itself, Pat McAfee, entered with the pouch swapped Titantron, switching from blue to red to reflect his heel persona. And then he even did Randy Orton's pose in sync with Randy. He gave Randy Orton a personal introduction while also continuing to bash the fans in attendance, as well as the IWC. Meanwhile, for Cody, he had this Iron Man-like entrance, highlighting his previous and current eras, which even includes Stardust. I really liked that entrance. But still, he was getting booed, heavily booed by the fans in Allegiant Stadium. Before the match started, Pat McAfee hit Cody with the microphone, but he was soon met with the Crossroads and Jelly Roll. Who could forget that Jelly Roll was involved in this story? Jelly Roll splashed Pat through the announce table, giving us this pure one-on-one matchup that we should have gotten right. Well, we did for the most part. But man, this was a chore to get through. This is a real chore to get through. Cody was targeting Randy's bad back for the first part of this match. And what was this very slow matchup for the first 10 minutes, which honestly has become the norm for Randy's matches at this point of his career. But still, it's still like hard to sit through. The back injury was a talking point too for Michael Cole and Wade Barrett, because that was actually reported by Dave Meltzer earlier this past week, which kind of was surprising that they even played into that, even if they implied it. Randy managed to do his babyface comeback even as a heel, but once they both made their way outside to the ring, he got pushed into the LED ring post, and he ran the blade for Cody to pick him apart, and it at least picked up from there. The back half was a little bit more interesting as fans continued to make their voices heard against Cody. Cody decided to make Orton bleed even harder and used his hanging rope DDT against him. And he tried to go for the RKO, only to eat the Crossroads from Orton for a near fall. Cody managed to steal the RKO from Orton for a near fall, but tried to set up the Crossroads, only to eat an RKO from Randy for a near fall. And then when they were trading punches, afterwards, Cody poked Randy in the eye, and that led to Randy RKOing the referee Charles Robinson by accident. Because, well, every WrestleMania main event in the last couple of years needs a good old ref bump, right? Right. So anyway, Cody blocked Orton's dick kick attempt for one of his own, and he went for the Cody Cutter, only for Randy to RKO in midair. But good old Charles Robinson was still KO'd, eating that ref bump. So who was going to count the pin? In came a cosplay referee, Pat McAfee, who miraculously recovered to count the pin, but Cody still kicked out. Then it got weird from there the rest of the way. Randy RKO'd Pat McAfee, which allowed Cody to hit the crossroads on Randy to retain the title. However, afterwards, Randy took it and hit Cody with the belt before punting him in the head to close out night 1. So this whole match basically described how this story turned out to be. A confusing mess. Yeah, this match and this whole storyline going into this WrestleMania was exactly that. A mess. Cody wrestled with much more edge than normal, which made sense given the stupidity of this storyline. However, due to the real-time fan resentment and Orton's back injury, he and Orton had to switch roles before switching back to their regular roles after, with Orton punting Cody in the head. But for some reason, Cody was kind of embracing the heel role for a bit in this match. But just for some reason, it clearly feels like Triple H is afraid of pulling the trigger on a Cody heel turn, because if there was a time and place to do that, this should have been it. Now, for Pat McAfee, I feel like he was like he was doing really good mic work. He cuts really good promos as a heel, but like, why was he taking an RKO from Randy Orton? The whole point of having Pat in this was just for him to get betrayed by Randy this early on. What was the point? Unless, this was just a way to write him off because the NFL draft is coming up soon. So overall, this wasn't a bad match per se, because it did pick up in the second half, but it just goes to show that this is really tainted by the continued messy storytelling that Triple H is trying to do. And of course, trying to clean up too, that because of Ari Emanuel's interference. So overall, with night 1, if this was just one night, if this WrestleMania was just one night only, this would have joined WrestleMania 9, 27 into amongst one of the worst WrestleManias of all time. Everything felt rushed and underwhelming, and whatever storytelling prior to the show barely or never paid off for the most of the matches. I get a lot of it had to do with the crap ton of ad time ESPN took from the creative team, but it still could have been worked around by putting the pre-match promos for the other matches to fill the fans in for in attendance on what to expect. This show ended just under 4 hours. You couldn't have pushed the envelope. Instead, you get an even flat crowd that was already going in. It got even flatter because they didn't know what to react to. The 3 select positives I had were Paige's return, Seth versus Gunther, and Liv's first real Mania win and winning back the women's world title. They were great and all in live time, but I don't feel anything afterwards. Even recording this. So night 2 really needed to deliver. It needed to hit big, because if it didn't, this Mania really was going to stick as a top 10 worst of all time. All right, night 2 of WrestleMania, and well, I was just hoping going into that WrestleMania Sunday, I was just hoping that it would be better. I was just really hoping that it would be better. That these 6 matches that were on the show would get a little bit more time. It would execute better than WrestleMania Saturday did, and I was just hoping for a better show with some better payoff, because like I said, if this WrestleMania Sunday was just like WrestleMania Saturday, then WrestleMania 42 as a whole was going to be a top 10 worst WrestleMania of all time, especially given the fact that even with the very little positives that I had with night 1 and whatever positives I had about night 2, not going to make up for the fact that this WrestleMania, with the build and the overall execution of night 1, not great. So anyway, let's get into night 2, because just like with night 1, which I went a little overboard with discussing, there's a lot to talk about with night 2, which was on ESPN proper ESPN for the first hour. And we kicked it off with John Cena yet again, introducing everyone to the second night of WrestleMania, and going on from the, I guess, I don't know what kind of theme they were going for this year. The night 1 had the Mad Max or Fallout theme from night 1. Then we go on to the futuristic look night 2. So that was a thing that happened. So yeah, that's what we transitioned into, as we began with the opening match for both WrestleMania Night 2 and the first hour of ESPN, as Brock Lesnar took on Obafemi. And this was a matchup that I was also looking forward to, and I was hoping that Triple H didn't screw up, because, well, he already screwed up Liv Morgan and Stephanie Vakir the other night. And this was one that he really didn't also need to screw up. And especially given that this story was relatively simplistic. 2 months prior, Paul Heyman, on behalf of Brock Lesnar, issued an open challenge for this WrestleMania, because, well, we all need a good old open challenge in Triple H's WWE. But anyway, Paul Heyman wanted anyone to face his beastly client, Brock Lesnar, for this WrestleMania. And with no one stepping up to the plate, well, here we were a month later in March. Former NXT champion Obafemi, who dueled but was eliminated by Brock Lesnar in the Royal Rumble match, came out to confront Lesnar, and he gave him his fall from grace finisher to accept the challenge. And that's how we got this match. So, and then the lead up to this match at WrestleMania, we saw both men getting into highly intense brawls. For the most part, Oba got the upper hand in this feud. And yeah, you got these intense brawls that security and officials could barely gain control of. So that really set the bar very high for this highly intense, highly physical, and beastly match that was gonna kick off night 2 at WrestleMania. And I had very high expectations for it. And boy, did this one deliver. Yes, it was short, but it was, something fell in my keys. But anyway, as it wasn't a drop, but it was simple. It was great. I thought it was very effective for the time that it was given. And yeah, it was such a great way to the person that ended up going over in this match. And I'll tell you who that was as we get to what actually happened in this one. Obafemi got a great reaction from the crowd as they were singing Oba, Oba, as they were chanting his name, and Oba was strutting down the ring. Meanwhile, you have Brock Lesnar getting a great reaction from the Vegas crowd, and you have these two larger-than-life dudes staring at each other and being at an even playing field to start things out. Like they're having like this struggle fest with one another. And so, yeah, that's how they started things out. But Obafemi got the first inch of offense, hitting Brock with the hard clothesline that sent him retreating. Brock Lesnar was pissed. He was threatening with Oba with the steel steps, but he threw them away. But Lesnar managed to get an inch of offense in this one, and the feud overall, ramming Oba into the LED ring post and taking him to Suplex City. But that wouldn't last long. Oba would get out of Suplex City, but he managed to also absorb 2 corner clotheslines to grab Brock Lesnar, by the way. Brock Lesnar grabbed Obafemi for an F5, but the F5 was relatively ineffective because Obafemi, he quickly recovered on his feet. Brock Lesnar turned around and he received the choke slam, and Obafemi finished off Lesnar with the fall from grace powerbomb to shock Las Vegas and shock everyone around the world, including me, with a decisive star-making win. Like, I did not, Obafemi pretty much dominated the build-up, but having him win this decisively against Lesnar, like with Lesnar barely getting any offense in, by the way, not just in the feud, but in the match itself, that was like surprising. That was very, very surprising. Like I did not expect Lesnar to do barely much of anything in this match. And honestly, he did great putting Oba over. Now, many haven't watched Oba stuff in NXT, but he was still highly promoted. Like they did a great job building him up before he got to the main roster with vignettes and stuff. And that included me. Like, but they still did a good job educating us on who Obafemi was before he got to the main roster. And now that he has been on the main roster like relatively quick, he's exceeded expectations with the self attributes, the look, the X factor, the promo ability, especially that promo he cut on Lesnar and Paul Heyman just 6 days prior to this show. He has shown that, yeah, he could be that next big guy that WWE has not been able to have for a very long time. And yeah, in this match, he just thoroughly dominated Brock Lesnar in a way that nobody has in quite some time. So, very big win for Obafemi in what seemed like a passing of the torch moment. So, it's now on Triple H and the creative to maximize on Obafemi. Strap that Raw on him. Let's see where they can go with him. And honestly, I could see Obafemi winning one of the world titles maybe as soon as SummerSlam or before the end of this year. So you might as well strap him now before the momentum gets cold. So not only did we get a shock victory, but this came out of nowhere. A seemingly shocking retirement. Yeah, Brock Lesnar out of nowhere, took off his boots, took off his gloves, and yeah, Brock Lesnar is done. Brock Lesnar is retired. He's seemingly done. And it's like, doesn't seem like it's a fake retirement, to come back and return for a certain match at SummerSlam against the Ring General, as many expected. It seemed like he's done for real, for now at least. He gave Paul Heyman a hug, kissed the ring, waved goodbye to the fans who were chanting, "Thank you, Brock. Thank you, Brock. Thank you, Lesnar." He was walking slowly up the ramp, and yeah, he was getting very emotional too, as if, yeah, this is like the real last time we're gonna see Brock Lesnar, maybe. But it seemed like legit. Like it was like very unexpected, and it was like I was kind of hurt because like Brock Lesnar is like one of the last real guys from like the past era, like the ruthless aggression era that I grew up with Brock Lesnar, John Cena, and then you got AJ Styles from a decade ago. AJ was not part of the ruthless aggression era, but he was part of an era where I grew up in. And then, yeah, many more guys that are gonna soon follow those three. Yeah, it's crazy how many legends that we've lost to retirement or, other circumstances. But damn, it's like my childhood is slowly falling away. From my wrestling childhood is slowly falling away because they're all retiring. But damn, if this is truly it for him, and again, not some setup for a hometown final match against Gunther, then thank you, Brock. Thank you, Brock Lesnar, for providing us some really nice memories, some ass-kicking memories. Yes, there are some things that are still to be resolved behind the scenes with the certain a legal case, and his reputation with the IWC is will always be tainted because of that certain case. But we'll never know like the facts. We'll never know the facts until it's officially revealed. But wrestling wise, and UFC wise, Lesnar is one of the best. He's one of the most recognizable names in pro wrestling and in UFC, just in overall. So thank you, Brock. Thank you. And I think, retiring now, and, in the way that he did, I think it's the best. I think this was the best rather than doing it at SummerSlam against Gunther, win or loss. I think this is a better way to do it. Putting over the young star in Obafemi than doing it predictably against the ring general Gunther. So then we move on from that and go into the 6-way ladder match for the Intercontinental Champion, which had Penta defend the title against Rusev, JD McDonough, Javon Evans, Dragon Lee, and Rey Mysterio. Yeah, Rey Mysterio ducking away from the ring general, but we'll talk about that in just a bit. Penta initially won the title a month prior from Dominic Mysterio, like I said, early last month. And after a few successful title defenses, he convinced Adam Pearce to schedule another defense for him at WrestleMania, which was this ladder match. So he had some qualifying matches take place on WWE's B tier show main event. But funny enough, the winners of those qualifying matches were actually announced 3 days prior to that airing on YouTube. So yeah, whoever did that, whoever was putting out that announcement, they fucked up there. They literally fucked up. So anyway, maybe those qualifying matches should have happened on TV, but your guess is as good as mine on why that happened on the B show that nobody watches. So anyway, the winners ended up being, like I said, Dragon Lee, who beat Grayson Waller, JD McDonough, who beat Akira Tozawa, Javon Evans, who beat one of the El Grande Americanos dudes, Rayo Americano, aka Pete Dunne, and Rusev beat Otis. And then, yeah, you had those qualifying matches. 5 of the 6 spots were confirmed. And then, obviously, you have Rey Mysterio. He was announced a week later as he returned from another injury to announce his addition in the match. Yeah, ducking Gunther a week after his match with Seth Rollins was announced for this Mania. So, Rusev, Dragon Lee, and JD McDonuts, they got the jobber entrances, which I've honestly never seen before at WrestleMania in a non-battle royal-ish match. I've never seen not this kind of thing happen. Maybe someone can correct me if that actually ever happened before. Yeah, they didn't get the traditional entrances. Maybe it was like a timing thing because you gotta get those ads in for ESPN. But still, I just found that to be very weird. So for the other entrances, though, Rey Mysterio, I'm glad that he finally brought back his jumping entrance. We haven't seen that in quite some time. I think the last time we did was WrestleMania 22 with his son Dominic. But I'm glad that he finally did his traditional jumping entrance. Been forever since he did that. Javon Evans made his WrestleMania debut. Means all right. But I really loved Penta's attire. I didn't notice that, but I'm glad Michael Cole brought it up. He was dressed up as Shao Kahn from Mortal Kombat. I just wish he had the hammer, though. It still was a badass attire. So as for the match itself, it's a ladder match, so there's so much going on. I'm just going to touch on the big spots that I really liked. It was a fun match, but, there was only like a couple spots that I really liked. Like Rey Mysterio hitting a 619 on Dragon Lee while Dragon Lee was sandwiched inside of a ladder. Penta launching Rey Mysterio into a West Coast pop onto Rusev, and Rusev was put through a ladder because of that. Penta hitting a Mexican destroyer on JD McDonuts from a ladder to a ladder bridge that was right there in front of them. And JD McDonuts landed headfirst onto that ladder bridge. And then you had Javon Evans hitting the OG cutter on Rusev from the turnbuckle to a ladder that Rusev was trying to climb and get the title. The finishing moment saw Penta taking out Javon with a Mexican destroyer. I think Javon was on a ladder or something before making the climb up to grab his title and retain it by just a very hair inch. So Penta survives, retains the Intercontinental title. I like this match. A lot of matches can make or break, but this one was fun. All 6 guys got to shine in this one. Rusev even got to shine in this. Like, this is the first nice match from Rusev since, well, he came back a year ago. Like, he was the only big dude. Like, he's like the only heavyweight in this match, but he still made his strengths useful in this one. Stopping like all the high flyers from getting the title and making good use of the ladders. And yeah, he was that one guy where everyone was ganging up on because he was just the heavyweight. Javon Evans, I thought he was the MVP, using his bounciness and his youth for some nice spots, like the springboard clothesline to take JD McDonuts off the ladder, and the OG cutter on Rusev. Even JD, for as much as we like to make jokes on him, like McDonuts, big head, he had a chance to shine with some decent offense. But in the end, though, Penta keeps the IC title, and he has his nice little reign going. So not much else to say. I like Penta as the IC champion, but hopefully we can get a storyline going for him, starting with Raw later on. So then we get the United States Championship match between Sami Zayn and Trick Williams. So the story behind this match was Trick making his main roster debut in January, confronting Sami Zayn about his multiple failed opportunities, especially at a world championship. And that amplified even further when Sami once again came up short of winning the WWE title from Drew McIntyre at the Royal Rumble. But Trick Williams himself fell short of his own world title opportunity in the Elimination Chamber #1 contender match. So yeah, Sami had a valid complaint about that. So a few weeks later, after the Chamber pay-per-view, Trick received a Mania match from General Manager Nick Aldis, who didn't give one to Sami. So that left Sami desperate for one. So, and he attacked Trick Williams because of that, and he later won the United States title from the champion Carmelo Hayes after Trick's interference backfired in that match. And Sami Zayn would beat Carmelo again in a rematch the next week or two, and that made this match between Sami and Trick for the U.S. title. I kind of feel bad for Carmelo because, well, I mean, he had some decent matches. He was actually an okay champion, but yeah, taking him off the Mania card that close to Mania because, Sami's politicking card, his favoritism from Triple H. Yeah, not great. And yeah, I guess the live fans in the IWC, they came together to show their feelings towards Sami the rest of the way en route to Mania, because Sami was bitching and complaining about said resentment from the fans, and yeah, from not just from the IWC, but now in the arenas. Sami was complaining about it, and then here comes Little Yachty, some rapper that was now aligned with Trick Williams, but he was a good hype man. I'll give him that. He was a really good hype man for Trick, and they kept downplaying him by calling him the Gingerbread Man. And literally the night before WrestleMania weekend on SmackDown, they had an actual gingerbread mascot. But unfortunately, I don't know why I didn't have Lord Farquaad. Like, come on, that's a missed opportunity. Triple H. I don't even know if that was a Triple H idea, but if that was Trick Williams and Lil Yachty's idea, like, how do you not have Lord Farquaad there too? Like, come on, missed opportunity there. So that was the rest of the build. Now for the match, Sami got booed heavily again in this one. Fans just didn't want to sing his theme song, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. So Vegas understood the assignment, but when it came to Trick Williams, Vegas understood the assignment there. They sang, "Whoop that trick, whoop that trick," and little Yachty, he once again hyping up his man, hyping up Vegas. He was like saying a lot of stuff as they both made their way to the ring. But man, what was up with Trick Williams' jacket? Like, it was very long and it just didn't want to, like, I don't know what it was supposed to be. Like, was it trying to roll or something? I don't know what was up with the jacket. But anyway, the match itself, Sammy was playing the heel role that was seen in the last few weeks, like attacking aggressively, Trick, especially with the nasty brain buster on the apron and hitting a haluva kick on the outside. But rather than bringing Trick Williams back in the ring, he rather take the easy way out by, trying to win by count out. But Trick Williams barely beat the 10 count to keep his chances alive for the title. So, yeah, Sammy, he was trying to cheat to win and try to win underhandedly in this. So Sammy tried to win with another haluva kick, but Lil Yachty, who was taken out by Sammy early on, he yanked Sammy while the referee was checking on Trick, who hit a spin kick on him for a near fall. And the finishing moment saw Sami Zayn hit an exploder suplex in the corner, but his haluva kick was met with a trick shot knee out of nowhere. And you have a new United States champion in Trick Williams. So very nice match between the two. And yeah, I'm excited to see Trick Williams going forward as champion. And, he's a charismatic dude. Great promo. Hopefully, fans will continue to see him beyond the theme song. And I do think they already are, given his promo work. His in-ring work is also, fans can see it too, that it's getting a lot better. I mean, it was down in NXT and TNA, but yeah, I think Trick Williams' rise to the top, at least in the mid card, is gonna keep growing from there, whether it's as a beloved heel or an eventual babyface. Now, the X factor here is what happens with Carmelo Hayes. Where does he fit in all of this? So that remains to be seen. So then we get into the next matchup, which involves Finn Balor taking on Dominic Mysterio in a matchup that was how many years in the making? It just feels like forever. This matchup, it goes back from 2022. Yes, that far back. Because Finn Balor, that's when he first joined Judgment Day in a setup where he joined the group which had Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley at the time. They kicked out Edge at the time, and Balor alongside those two, they slowly but successfully recruited Dominic away from his deadbeat dad. And they recruited Dominic into the group. But here we are, fast forward 2+ years later, towards late 2024. Finn repeatedly grew envious of his own failures. And he was trying to gain control of the group on his own. And he grew envious of the successes from Dominic and the new member, Liv Morgan, which became a painfully on and off gimmick throughout 2025, like all of 2025. These failures included him losing to and getting pinned by Dominic in a 4-way Intercontinental title match at last year's Mania in Vegas. So yeah, that's what continued to happen, and again, very on and off still in a painful manner throughout the rest of last year. And I put that a lot on creative and Triple H continuing to squander that. They could have had this dissension, this match at SummerSlam last year, or like earlier or later than at some point last year. They kept delaying it. Whoever was going to turn, especially last summer when Liv got hurt and when Dominic became a double champion on his own by winning that AAA Mega Championship. I thought when he won that AAA Mega Championship, I thought Finn could have turned there, but no, nothing happened there. So that lack of progression continued until January this past year, when Finn instead progressed towards the light. He started to become a babyface. So you had the roles switched up, and the story was going the wrong way. After facing World Heavyweight Champion CM Punk twice in 2 months, and throughout that time, despite the backwards storytelling, he wanted Dom to compete the right way. And then things finally came to a head at the Elimination Chamber after the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view when Balor stopped JD McDonuts from helping Dominic retain the title by cheating, and that cost Dominic the title. And then the next week, Balor got kicked out of the group, but Finn got revenge 2 weeks later by costing Dom the rematch with Penta. So that set up this match for this WrestleMania, but I didn't like the way that they went about it. They basically gave them next to nothing for this match. The history or lack thereof was barely explained in order to favor Finn. And yeah, out of the blue, they just had Finn wrestle as his demon persona. Yeah, the same old demon that got pinned by Edge 3 years ago at WrestleMania 39 and fell off the turnbuckle in his Extreme Rules match against Roman Reigns. Yeah, pin Demon Balor. So earlier on in the pre-show, General Manager Adam Pearce told Dominic Mysterio that the match would now be a street fight. My initial thought was why didn't it need to be a street fight? Because the build-up and the backwards storytelling didn't deserve it. So not sure why it needed that. But actually, with the match itself, I thought, it actually kind of benefited from it. So it changed my tune a little bit. But before we get into the match itself, Dominic came out. I really like this entrance. He came out to a giant throne, symbolizing his King of the Luchadors gimmick that he has going on, being the AAA champion and all that. He came out to a giant throne led by many independent wrestlers wearing his mask. So really nice touch there. Like, it's literally a giant throne. Meanwhile, you got Finn Balor doing his usual demon semen entrance for the first time since Mania 39. Like, I'm not sure what he was holding. It was like a hammer skull and all that. It was just very weird. And it was also very weird that he was doing it in the daylight. Sure, it wasn't like SoFi Stadium daylight, but still, inside of the Raider Stadium where it was still having the daylight in it, still weird. And then the cameras caught Dom hiding behind Michael Cole and Wade Barrett when all this was happening. Like, dude, it's the demon semen pin Balor. Like what? If Edge was hiding, if Edge was hiding behind this, people would rag on him. But it's fucking like, Dominic, really? Like, come on, man. Edge beat this dude. Roman Reigns beat this dude. Like, Samoa Joe beat this dude. Yet Dominic, the King of the Luchadors, was hiding behind this demon semen. But I digress. The street fight was actually not that bad. Dominic did get some offense in. He hit a 619, but Finn kicked out of one and threw Finn through a table that was set up in the corner before hitting a steel chair 619. But Finn kicked out of that at 2. But otherwise, Finn was dominating most of this, bullying Dominic in this, hitting him with sling blades, a kendo stick, up the ass, mind you, and giving Dominic a steel chair beating towards the end. But, I mean, even then, he still couldn't put Dominic away easily, too. It wasn't a straight-up squash match, which actually I appreciated a bit because, sure, he hit one coup de grace, but Dominic stayed alive in it. Then we get to the photo finish. It saw Dominic trying, but failing to set up another table to put Finn through, and the crowd did not like that at all. It's like as if Dom was very clumsy to set that up, and the crowd hated that. But that allowed the Demon to rise up again to strike. Finn relentlessly attacked him with a chair, hit a shotgun drop kick while Dominic's neck was strapped around with a chair, which was nasty, by the way. And then he finished off his former Judgment Day guy with a coup de grace through the table. So, yeah, the match was very decent. And I thought this was the better stipulation match than Drew versus Jacob. I felt like they did much more in this one, even if the storytelling was messy. And Dom did a solid by having him look scared at first, but he toughened up as the match progressed. So he wasn't that scared guy that was hiding behind Michael Cole and Wade Barrett. He actually did like, look a little bit stronger along the match. even if he was clumsy with that table setup. So I did expect Finn Balor to win this one, although it's still weird that Finn needed the Demon to beat Dom. Like, really? It just proved that you couldn't beat Dom as yourself. You need to put on the Demon makeup to beat Dom. Like, really? And it also proves that just years ago that whether it was yourself or as the Demon, you couldn't beat Edge. But anyway, I think after this, well, unless something happens on Raw, I think that this feud is pretty much done. Like, there's nothing else that these two really need to do because, well, they didn't acknowledge their past history and Finn being an asshole and all that to Liv and Dom. There's not really much else that they can do. I think this is one and done, especially with the visual of Finn, closing Dom's eyes as if he was like dead or something. So I just wonder what Finn does from here because, well, the world title scenes are clogged up at the moment. Does he go after one of the mid-card titles on Raw? Does he go to SmackDown? I mean, I feel like a SmackDown move could help him because they could use some help there. Meanwhile, I hope that the Judgment Day can finally start to fall for good now. Now that everyone but Liv lost at this Mania, I hope that her and Dom can finally start to break away from that group together so they can do their own thing, both solo and together. Next up, we had the women's champion Jade Cargill defend the title against Rhea Ripley. Boy, this story going into this match, the buildup was not great at all because Rhea Ripley won the women's elimination chamber match to earn this title match against Jade. But this feud, it fell apart before it even began because they tried to build up this match on Twitter. It began with a back and forth before it became a shoot after Jade hurt Rhea's feelings by bringing up her creative control card. And that apparently set off Rhea's feelings. She got into a pissy fit on Twitter. And then from there, the lack of buildup was on full display as they were having a dick measuring contest. They were reduced to promos on like who has the better muscles, who has the better chest and abs. It was unfortunate that they didn't have a push-up contest or like an arm wrestling contest because I thought from their first promo on SmackDown after Elimination Chamber, I thought that the direction they should have gone in, the Triple H Scott Steiner route from 2003. But anyway, for some reason they added Mia Yim and B-Fab, the two jobbers that jobbed out to Jade like a while back. But yeah, they became Jade's baddies to gangbang Rhea, and then Io Sky, who's Rhea's partner, she became involved in this too. So surprisingly though, this was a good matchup. Both women really stepped it up despite the terrible build. Jade had probably one of, if not her best match in WWE. She was overpowering Rhea for most of this. Pulled out some really good moves, especially doing Kenny Omega's one winged angel like towards the end of this match. Rhea still did good too, using her quickness and some of her own power moves as well. And she sold her ass off for Jade in this. And again, like I said, used her quickness to take her down. And then towards the end of the match, Jade's baddies in B-Fab and Mia Yim, they came in to help her, but honestly, they were pretty useless because Io Sky came out to even the score to help her friend. And Io didn't have a match at this WrestleMania, which was honestly kind of surprising. Given last year, she was the women's world champion and defended it against Bianca and Rhea and successfully defended it. And then here, she was just defending her friend against B-Fab and Mia Yim to help her, Rhea get to the end result. So Jade managed to escape the Riptide on the first go. She hit the pump kick, but Rhea managed to escape being jaded and hit the Riptide to win this match and become the new women's champion. So good match. I mean, this was kind of 50-50. Yeah, I'd say 50-50. I think it was about 60-40 in terms of like who was going to win, I thought, there's a decent enough chance that Jade was going to win, but I thought Rhea Ripley winning this was kind of a given. But some fans will complain online that Rhea wins lol, or, I'm gonna take the title that I never lost yet. I kind of lent towards that too, because, like Rhea can never seem to not have a title ever in her storylines or her feuds. She's always got to be that person that always got to have a world title. Otherwise, she basically has nothing. Well, which is honestly true. She basically has no character depth. And all that. Like, it's either she has a world title or her Io Sky. Otherwise, she basically stripped down the parts. But in defense, though, in fairness, it was pretty clear that it's kind of needed, to be honest, because what does Triple H have right now on the SmackDown Women's Division? Like, Jade had a pretty lengthy run as the Women's Champion, but she had nothing to work with. Like, she really didn't have anything to work with, because his big card in Jade versus Bianca, that was out of the window, especially now with the news of, prior to this, Bianca had a finger that she just got surgery on, and now she's pregnant. And even now that Rhea's the champion, her the dream match that everyone wanted in Rhea versus Bianca, that's indefinitely on hold. So, yeah, Triple H's two big cards are out the window because Bianca is out for the foreseeable future. So, even now that Rhea's champion, like, that SmackDown Women's Division needs more help than ever. It needs serious depth. I mean, I could see Rhea and Io going to SmackDown to help out Jade, Tiffany Stratton, Charlotte, Alexa. And a lot of NXT people need to be called up too, because that women's division needs serious help for the next several months. And like, it needs it badly. So even though Rhea, yes, she's the top woman on SmackDown now, it still needs a lot of help. So now we move on to John Cena's segment for night 2. And he was back to announce the attendance for the second night of WrestleMania 42, which was 55,255. Again, just like with night 1. I don't know how accurate this number is. Probably someone from the Wrestling Observer newsletter will key us in. But anyway, the overall attendance for this WrestleMania was 106,072. Probably a little bit down from last year. But when you host WrestleMania back-to-back in Vegas, it's going to be expected. So for this segment for Cena, it wasn't going to end just like that. This time around, The Miz and Kit Wilson came out to try to get his Mania moment. But in came Danhausen. Yeah, Danhausen, the good old comedy act that just came on the scene. He was coming out on his Danhausen mobile, and you had many versions of him. He came out to interrupt, and yeah, they had an exchange of words. John Cena was in the corner, just taking it all in, and Kit Wilson said something like, "You are toxic," and Kit Wilson got hit in the nuts by one of the mini Hausens, and Kit Wilson got dogpiled by the rest of them, while Miz got grabbed in the nuts by the real Danhausen, who once again cursed the Miz with the cursed knuckle shuffle, as I like to call it. And now that was pretty much the segment. Cena signed off for the main event and his time as the host. I mean, it was a segment that happened. But I'm like, my biggest takeaway from this was me being surprised that Cena didn't do much else this entire weekend. Like, you have John Cena as the host of WrestleMania, big name and all that. The man that just won his 17th world title at the previous year's WrestleMania in Vegas. But then the following year, yeah, he's the host, but he was just there. You just made him as a guy that was just there. And maybe Cena had a say in that. Hey, maybe he didn't want to do too much. Like, he wanted to make it all about the talent. I mean, I can respect that. But I just wish that he did at least one or two more segments, like, be backstage and all that. It was a little weird because I feel like he did more as when he was the host of a B pay-per-view in Payback 2023 than he did here. I don't know. Maybe like I said, he didn't want to overdo it. He didn't want to overstay his welcome, unlike what he did in Payback 2023. So, I don't know. Maybe sometimes simple is enough, I guess. So then we get into our main event, which featured the World Heavyweight Champion CM Punk taking on Roman Reigns to close out WrestleMania 42 as a whole. Roman Reigns, he won the Royal Rumble this past year, but these two have been going at each other since the year prior from a variety of issues, stemming from Punk stealing back his former manager and Paul Heyman from Roman in the lead up to their triple threat match at last year's Mania in Vegas with Seth Rollins as a favor from teaming up in the 2024 Survivor Series War Games match, only for both men to get turned on by Heyman for Seth Rollins to form the ill-fated Vision stable in that Mania Night 1 main event. So here we are, fast forward, like I said, Roman won the Royal Rumble match this past year, and he got egged into choosing CM Punk out of pure hatred. Punk, the World Heavyweight Champion by this point in time, Punk egged Roman into choosing him, and Roman chose him out of his overall hatred due to Punk's comments on Colt Cabana's podcast in late 2014 that made fans turn against him, even though that's not really what exactly made fans turn on Roman at the time. And, those comments, it made it harder for him and how it made his jobs hard for several years. And yeah, that's how we got to this point. And the rest of the lead up saw them two trying to make each other crack in promo battles, which I feel like the first two after the initial one, they were very good promos. Punk first being called old by Roman, and then Punk, a week prior downplaying Roman and bashing his deceased dad. But then after that, it took a downturn because they tried to involve the Usos in it, and they repeated the same announce table spots over and over again. So, and then also the 6 days prior, they apologized to each other in a love fest. So I'm like, why? But anyway, let's get into the match itself. You saw Roman Reigns' entrance, which honestly, I really like this. I really like this entrance. It was very close to what he did at WrestleMania 39. He had an opera singer, a bass drummer, and a pianist. They were playing in tune. Kind of similar to what he did at Mania 39, minus all the pianists around him, like the many of them. And most importantly, Roman Reigns brought back his OG Tribal Chief theme, like the one that everyone loves, the one that he had during his 1300-day title run, and the one that suits him much better than the one he started using at WrestleMania 40 until this point. And I hope that he keeps his OG Tribal Chief theme going forward, because the one that he had prior to this, that he used starting at Mania 40, it just doesn't hit the same. It really doesn't hit the same. Like, it takes forever to get that theme going, like much longer than the OG Tribal Chief one. So I'm glad he brought it back. And again, I hope he uses it going forward. CM Punk, he used he had this montage and he was walking out to his old Ring of Honor theme. He went silent. The stadium went quiet for a bit. So he can say, "It's clobbering," and then everyone said "time," and then his music played. So it's kind of like one of those basketball entrances, boxing entrances, that kind of similar to what he did at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view against Finn Balor. But yeah, the match itself, man, like, this was a match that really needed a saving grace for this overall Mania pay-per-view. Like, it started out a little slow. They traded the advantage for the first 15 plus minutes, but then Roman trapped Punk in a tree of woe He busted his mouth open with a few Superman punches. But here's my major gripe. And this is the only one, by the way, with this match. Like, because Roman hit CM Punk with the steel steps to make him bleed. And that should have resulted in an instant disqualification. But the ref was like, nah, it's the main event of WrestleMania. And I was like, fuck that, dude. It's like, it's a singles match with rules, countouts, and disqualifications in a regular match. Like, it's the main event of WrestleMania, but there are still rules to be enforced here. Like, you just can't throw all logic out the window and let Roman do whatever he wants. Like, since when did it become bloodline rules here, pal? Like, you just can't use referee discretion out of the blue. That's not how it works here. But anyway, I think the match really picked up from there, and that's when it really started getting good. Roman powerbombed CM Punk through the announce table like they were at a 49er game. I really loved that line. But Punk reversed it, a spear, into a desperation go to sleep for a near fall, only to eventually eat a spear for another near fall that left Roman Reigns like stunned. Like, he was like really stunned that gassed, desperate CM Punk kicked out of that. And from there, that's when I really started to love this match. And the story especially the story that they're telling the rest of the way. Roman dominating the second half of this stretch. And then CM Punk, as the match went along, he was still fighting. He was bloodied. But then as the match progressed, he was getting gassed and tired as he was trying to fight to stay alive. Roman tried to make Punk pass out with the guillotine, but Punk kept escaping, and they both eventually found each other at a stalemate, trash talking each other along the way. And then Punk's desperation kicked in as he went low blow Roman in the dick after throwing some tape at Roman, and then the ref was trying to throw the tape away, and that's when it happened. And then he hit the GTS, but it wasn't enough, so he elected to throw Roman out of the ring, put him on the announce table, and hit his flying elbow drop to put Roman through the announce table. And then after that, we got to the photo finish. Punk hit one GTS on Roman, but Roman ricocheted into the ropes and fell back onto CM Punk. But Punk failed to hit another GTS because of exhaustion. He got tired out, and that allowed Roman to capitalize with not just one spear, but two, to win the World Heavyweight Championship. The same World Heavyweight Championship you called the second tier title, or the bracket title a couple years ago. But anyway, Roman has won back a world title. He's claimed his spot back at the head of the table, back on top of WWE. And man, what a match this was. This was both of their best matches in a good while, and Roman's best since last year. Well, in fairness, he's only had a few matches in the last year, but I'd say this is Roman's best match since last year, and probably his best Mania main event in quite some time. The build-up took a bit of a downturn since those first three initial promos, but they more than made up for it here, as Roman pretty much justified his comments on Punk's age. And again, I'll go back to the build-up for a bit. It's just a bit of a shame that Roman wasn't allowed to go in more on some things on Punk, like his failed UFC career, AEW, especially the All In 2023 incident, and then All Out 2022. It was just unfortunate that Roman wasn't allowed to go in on that, or he probably didn't get approval from Punk about it. But it's just a shame that he couldn't go all in on that. No pun intended. But this was a great Mania main event. I really liked the ending here. I mean, not being biased because I'm a Roman fan, but this was a nice final title defense for CM Punk. Better go out swinging on the way out as a champion. But then there was even better news on the post show. Roman announced that he was going to show up on Raw, and he was going to be showing up full time, at least for throughout the summer, as the World Heavyweight Champion. He's going to take care of that part-time crap that everyone shits on him about. So let's hope that turns out to be true. And yeah, we're hoping to see Roman Reigns more frequently, and let's see if he stays true to his words. So overall, night 2, way better than the first one. I thought the results were correct, and some of them were expected, but what I saw from night 2, the execution to get to those match results was much better. I thought the matches were either pretty solid, and then obviously you had a good women's championship match. Yes, I said good. And then you got a great main event. Yes, going back to the women's championship match, Rhea and Jade had a surprisingly good outing. That honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they went another go at Backlash. Like, Jade had one of the best matches of her whole career. So yeah, she showed out. She stepped up to the plate. And then despite, the beef with one another, they really did a good job this past Mania weekend. Obviously, the biggest news to come out of this Mania, though, was the seemingly retirement of Brock Lesnar, which, again, I thought would have happened at SummerSlam in his hometown of Minneapolis versus Gunther. But I firmly believe for now, I might be wrong, as Raw at the time of this recording is today. So I think if this is his last rodeo, I think putting over Obafemi is a much better option, since Oba and having the honor to retire Brock is gonna be much better in the long run. So overall, when you look back at WrestleMania 42, the buildup was really bad outside of 2 matches in Obafemi versus Brock Lesnar and Liv Morgan and Stephanie Vakir, and I guess to a little bit of a degree, in the honorable mention, Roman Reigns versus CM Punk, especially with how that match turned out. And take it back. Liv Morgan and Stephanie Vakir takes some knocks down because of how the match turned out. But night 2, let me go backwards a bit. When you look at WrestleMania 42 as a whole, it was close to its justification as being a bottom 10 WrestleMania of all time. Like, the build sucked outside of 2 to 3 matches, and night 1 was really bad. It was really, really bad. Like, in terms of the execution, the build for all those matches were bad. Outside of Liv versus Stephanie, and yeah, even that match disappointed. And the rumor mill is saying that both of them were going in relatively banged up, in which I kind of get, but still, like, almost every match was short. And yeah, that match was the shortest of the night. So what was the excuse for the other matches? But anyway, not to drift away from that. Night 1 was very bad outside the 3 silver linings in Paige's return, Seth versus Gunther, and then you got Liv Morgan's true WrestleMania moment in that title win. But this Mania got saved by night 2 because of the good execution from all the matches in the end game of those results. So yeah, WrestleMania 42, I think it was a little below average. It's not the worst, one of the worst, but still not the greatest or one of the best. It's just like right there, like below average. So now when you look at the post-Mania picture for WWE, I might talk about this later on. You still have the TKO effect. It's still going to be present. It's still going to impact WWE, whether it's in a positive, but I say more negative manner. But we have to look at how Triple H can at least try to keep it stable. And I don't know how he can, because his booking's still pretty bad. And I do expect him to be canned before the end of the year, along with the rest of the creative team. But for now, he's got to try to at least keep the ship stable. And what direction he can have for this company coming out of this show. And that starts with Raw, again, at the time of this recording, today. So it's clear that the top champions in Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, Liv Morgan, and Rhea Ripley will be the trusted ones to steer the ship for at least the next few months going into the summer, going into SummerSlam, which, as of right now, I think it's going to be a rebuild of sorts. Challenges are going to have to be made for Roman Reigns, a la Obafemi, Braun Breaker, etc. It's got to be a youth movement that's got to start in order for them to be built up to face Roman Reigns. When you look at Cody Rhodes, he's got a serious eye injury, and he's not going to relinquish that title unless if it's a severe injury. But barring that, I think he's going to continue his feud with Randy Orton, given what happened on night one. Rhea Ripley's going to need some serious help in the SmackDown Women's division, like real badly, like I said. Liv Morgan's going to have some depth on the Raw side, especially once they start breaking up some tag teams there. But she still needs some call-ups from NXT. But in the short term, I think she's going to have a rematch with Stephanie Bakir, and hopefully a much longer rematch at that. And then right after that, you got the implosion of the Judgment Day with Raquel and Roxanne. And then, like I said, with the youth movement, it's slowly starting to get some steam. You got Oba, Braun Breaker, Javon Evans, Trick Williams, and a variety of others making their statements at this show. And hopefully Creative has big plans for them in the next few months going towards the end of this year. So, yeah, I mean, WrestleMania 42, for the really bad build that it had going in, and it being the last one on American soil until 2028 because it's going to Saudi next year. I mean, again, not the worst one, not a bottom 10. Night 2 barely saved it from being a top bottom 10 WrestleMania of all time. It's still below average, but again, not one of the worst shows of all time. So, yeah, that was WrestleMania 42, and my overall review, a very lengthy review of that because there's just so much that happened on this show, both for the bad and for the good. It was a tale of two nights in the sequel in Las Vegas. So, yeah, I hope that WWE takes a break from Vegas for a while because it was clear that there was burnout in Vegas from fans alike, both in person and around the world. So let me hear your thoughts on WrestleMania 42. If you still happen to be listening, and I hope you are, in the comments below on YouTube. And if you're listening to this on audio, leave me a message on my socials at Very Cold Lasagna on Twitter or Instagram. So thank you for joining me on this episode, this very beefy episode of the Very Cold Lasagna Podcast. I've been your host, Dylan Lasagna, once again bringing you all the filthy casual takes on the world of sports for you sports and non-sports fans out there like you and me. Signing off on episode 345, and yeah, let's see where WWE goes from here after this latest iteration of WrestleMania 42. But until then, until the next episode, whenever that will be, signing off from this one, peace out.